back here on the Choose954 podcast, episode 43, with local community builder, nonprofit leader, overall good guy, Rosario.
Thanks.
If you didn't know about Choose954, we started a social movement to cultivate culture and community here in Broward County to keep people to know with all the great things that are going on and make this a better place to live. The point of the podcast is to connect you with incredible people like him doing amazing things in the community, so hopefully you can get involved and support. This podcast is sponsored by the Thousand Mermaids Artificial Reef Project, creating artistically crafted artificial reef modules to help save the reefs, save the ocean, save the planet. Find out more, you can log on to www.1000mermaids.com. That's the number 1000mermaids.com. Well, without much further ado, why don't you tell us about Mr. Rosario at a high level here?
Sure. First off, thank you for having me on your show, and been following you for quite some time. I know we run into each other in the community because I think that's something that we are both passionate about here in Fort Lauderdale. Who's Louis Rosario at a 50, 100,000 foot level? Born and raised in New Jersey, came down here when I was 15, been here ever since. However, I came down in Pembroke Pines, which is a big culture shock. Coming from like an urban environment such as North Bergen, New Jersey, which is where I'm from, and just being out in the burbs where you need a car to go everywhere, and that was a big issue for me because I was really independent at such a young age, riding my bike in my neighborhood. And long story short, as I grew up, I had a car, and it just got tiring just having to go everywhere, not being or feeling a part of my community. So I made it a goal that I wanted to live in Fort Lauderdale. I loved Fort Lauderdale. It was centrally located between Miami, West Palm. I thought, logistically speaking, it was great. And then the community is amazing. It has a little bit of flair. It's up and coming, so I wanted to be a part of that too.
Amen.
So, and that's what drives me about being a part of the community, is kind of plugging into something that's up and coming. And when things are up and coming, you have the ability to kind of influence it and just kind of put your fingerprint on.
And that's one of the beautiful things in broad terms from Fort Lauderdale as a whole, but even like in the arts community, for one example in Fort Lauderdale, not to say that you couldn't just walk up into the scene in Miami and plug yourself into the Miami art scene, but it's not going to be as easy or as inclusive. That's one of the things I think we both like about Fort Lauderdale and so many different communities. Even myself, now being in the nonprofit community, I'm welcomed without having nonprofit experience. So I think that is a beautiful thing. But how did you originally get into like the community building space?
If I were to go back as far as college, I think that's the first experience that I had with getting involved with student government. I was a part of student government for about 2.5 years at FAU, which is my alma mater. And I was in the Broward campuses, not the Boca campus.
Okay.
So I was involved in the Davie campus, downtown campus, and then CTEC. So I oversaw all those campuses for event planning for student government activities. So I got exposed to the community via the way of that experience, and I was really passionate about it. And that was kind of my first touch with getting involved.
Okay.
And, moved on from that, and I was working at a personal development company for about 5 years called morningcoach.com. It's a great company. The podcast still going on. Got a lot of experience there with coordinating retreats, seminars, putting podcasts together. Big shout out to JB Glossinger, who's an amazing guy, a mentor and my boss at the time. He had followers from all over the world, and that's where a lot of people, they see me, and I'll travel a lot. And when I travel to different places, I know people, and it's because of that experience at Morning Coach, because we had members from all over the world. And that's another thing too that exposed me in the community, is doing events here locally at different venues. Like I did several events at Riverside Hotel.
Okay.
I also did an event at the convention center, coordinated that.
Okay.
So doing all these different events and activities in these venues kind of exposed me to that. So.
And then what else all are you involved in now? We see you all out and about throughout town. So what organizations are you involved in? Do you support?
Yeah, no, for sure. So after that evolution from Morning Coach, I had a short stint at a digital marketing firm, and then eventually, I was driving a Boca for that job, and it was just draining. And I did the math, the commute every every day was 1 hour each way times 5, that's 10 hours. 40 hours over, 30 or 40 hours, depending on how you count it throughout the month. That's a whole work week in a car. Luckily, I had Audible to guide me, but then I wanted to plug into my community, and I had a goal to transition into something that, I worked where I lived. That was my goal, and I lived where I worked. That's what I wanted to do. One thing led to another, and an opportunity at the FLITE Center opened up as a director of development. And it's basically sales, which is what I was doing, but for a nonprofit. And I kind of brought that for-profit mentality into the nonprofit, and it's been great. I've been there for 2 years now.
What is FLITE Center?
Yeah, great question. So FLITE Center is a central resource center for youth that are aging out of foster care here in Broward County. It was created as a community collaborative by 3 distinct, well-known organizations: United Way, Junior League, and the Community Foundation, which is
right here.
Yeah, Community Foundation. They all came together back in 2004, and they saw an opportunity because what was happening for youth that are aging out of foster care, once they hit 18, they become adults. They're considered adult, mandated by law, and they have to live on their own. And in some instances, and it still happens, unfortunately, in this country, where youth that are in group homes, they get woken up at midnight. And it's like, hey, thank you for staying here. You have to transition, because one of the reasons is, they're considered an adult. They can't be among minors for other reasons as well. So it's as abrupt as that in some instances. And in some instances, they'll be coming home from school and they find all their stuff in their trash bags, and it's like, all right, here, you got to figure it out. And some, they'll have $50. Here's $50, and you figure it out. And before FLITE, a lot of the youth were ending up at the bus terminal on Broward and Andrews, and I can attest to that because my boss, Christine Frederick, she was working for another organization, and she was a part of the child welfare system there, working at a different organization, and she rose tell me, like, yeah, that's where we would go pick up the youth when they'd age out, because they had nowhere to go, they had no guidance, and it was a big issue. So these 3 amazing organizations came together as a community collaborative and gave birth to the FLITE Center. And we actually, this past Monday, we celebrated our 10th anniversary in existence. It's so timely because we just moved to a bigger location, bigger in a good way, in the sense of we needed to grow, because we came on board, meaning myself, our director, our executive director of programs, the whole executive team was fairly new. We all came together, came on board at the same time, and at the time we had like about a staff of 9, now we're about 18 or 19.
Oh wow.
So we doubled the staff, because the need is it's there. It's really critical. We're serving about 1,300 youth that come through our doors, whether it be referral to different resources or helping them in the 3 areas such as housing, education, and employment, which is what we focus on. And our outcomes are tremendous, with the impact that we're making in the lives of these youth.
Amen.
At a really pivotal junction in their lives, which is like, you can either turn left or right, and we're trying to guide them into the right way. And I'm actually working on some statistics to show the economic impact with that, because, at the end of the day, money talks.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
And they want to contribute. They need to be contributing members of society.
They need to be contributors, but I go back to the money talks, because that's, I come from for-profit, and that's what people want to see is where, when people are donating, where their money, where their dollars are going. And I personally want to kind of hold ourselves to a sense of an accountability, not that we need it, but also really be transparent and kind of showing the big picture. And I think that's the key element.
Right.
when it comes to making impact. You got to show the numbers. So that's in the works right now. And that's going to really show the whole entire picture of what we do, because it's really complex, and especially now we've expanded our services outside of foster care. Now we're also servicing youth that are victims of human trafficking, youth that are from relative care, which means that are youth that are in foster care but not all the way, and basically these are youth that are being taken care of by a relative, like a grandparent, aunt, or uncle. And when they age out, they don't receive the same amount of support as a youth that was in foster care.
Right.
So when they age out, they may get kicked out at 18 from they may have an issue with their relative. And they get kicked out, they have no support, they don't have the stipend, they don't qualify for certain benefits. So we've expanded our scope to provide that. And then the last one, which is the one that impacted me the most, because I didn't really realize that were the youth from the LGBTQ community. And nobody realizes that, when they come out at such an early age, or they get caught, dating somebody of the same sex, in high school, whatever, at 16, the parents may not accept that, and to the point where they kick them out, which to me, I can't even fathom that. That's your child. To do that to any child is unfathomable for me, but it happens. And then on top of that, they end up out in the street, and they're prime prospects. I hate to use that word, but for pimps to kind of use them for human trafficking as well. So that's something that we've also expanded into, and as well as emergency housing. We have something called Phoenix House, which is an emergency housing assistance for youth that we can place them without having to wait for funding, because there's some red tape and coordination that comes from placing youth in housing, that we have to rely on certain funding coming in.
Correct.
And there's a timing issue and whatnot. And we found that was a big issue, because to provide services for youth, you have to, just any human being, they have to have their the basic human needs met, which is shelter, food, and just a safe environment. And they didn't have that. So it's how can you work with the youth on their education and their employment status when they're couch surfing or they can't be found anywhere? So this house, Phoenix House, has given us the opportunity to kind of just, all right, we have a youth, we can place them right away. We don't have to kind of search for any shelter homes or whatnot. We can just, as long as we have the space. And then once they're in, we work with them. We have a resident assistant there who kind of guides them and builds them all, puts them back on their feet.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, everybody deserves a second chance, man.
Or not only second, deserves their
third, fourth, fifth,
or first chance.
First chance, yeah.
Not everybody's so fortunate. I found this out from my involvement with the Backpack Barber Foundation and speaking with people at Broward College, telling me that there is 60 plus homeless students at Broward College, at the South Campus alone. So, and they want to be able to provide support, so we're trying to provide support to our organization, and we've had conversations obviously about looping up with you guys, and we work with our partnership. And it's one of those things, unfortunately, I don't want to say it's something that people take for granted, but maybe it's out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people.
Absolutely. There was something interesting. What's that? I was reading, I've been on a Audible binge right now, and I recently read this book called Atomic Habits. And the guy gave an example, said that the president, regardless, and I'm not trying to be political, but regardless of what party, the president should have somebody, if he's going to have the access to the nuclear launch codes, he should walk with somebody, handcuffs at his arm, and that person should have a butcher knife. I know this is kind of an extreme example, but he said if he's going to use the launch code, he has to kill somebody first. And it was like a psychological experiment. And the reason why they said that is because when you do the launch codes, you're not seeing the people that are going to die.
Correct.
So before he's going to do that, take that act, he has to see somebody die in front of him for him to kind of really take it into consideration, really kind of see the depth and really absorb it, because that's the issue. A lot of people will wage war, will do this, and will say, some people will come in, to FLITE, and they'll say, oh, well, these kids should be this, and they should do that. Well, you don't know the story. You don't know what's going on. You don't see it. And I think that's the key overall. That's the element of what we're doing here, is telling people's story. And that's what we're, in our project, I don't know when you want to announce it, but everybody has a story to tell. And I think when people hear each other's story and see the good, bad, and ugly, it just provides perspective.
Amen.
Overall. And I think that's the key element here, and I think that's what drives me in just networking too, because I take a unique approach to networking. I look at the person first. Not what you do. What you do comes out, yeah, but who is this person? Where do you come from? What kind of vibe do you bring? And I think, I'm tired of a lot of people talking about this. A lot of people know that this is needed, but what are you doing about it? So I know I kind of digress, but
No.
I think it's,
Well, and it's, it comes to a pivotal time because I think we all know, unfortunately, issue number one for Fort Lauderdale is the homeless issue. And if, we all know, unfortunately, the situation that the jails release people and they release them into downtown Fort Lauderdale, that doesn't help the issue at all, but this is another angle, and it's wonderful that folks like yourself, Broward Partnership, United Way, the Backpack Barber Foundation are contributing within their own respective capacities to support these issues and your situation, hopefully cutting the head of the snake off. So you do a lot of great work. If somebody was moved by this, what are some ways that they can support or get involved?
Yeah, definitely our website, FLITE Center, FLITE center.org. That's another big thing. It's not flight as in spelled with a G, but it's FLITE center.org. And it's an acronym for Fort Lauderdale Independence Training and Education Center. You can definitely visit our website. There's opportunities to donate there. You could feel free to email me. It's Luis, Luis, @flightcenter.org. I'd be more than happy, to get you involved in any way for volunteer opportunities, whether it be tutoring our youth, mentoring our youth, coordinating different drives for our housing bins. When a youth goes into housing, we provide them these plastic bins that cover all their basic necessities because the stipend that they get covers their rent and a mattress. The rest comes from FLITE and different donations from the community. So we have these bins that we provide to them rather than a garbage bag or any other bag. It's a bin, it's something sturdy, and it's presented to them in kind of a dignified way, and it provides them all the basic necessities for them to get started. Cleaning materials, bathroom supplies, kitchen supplies, and bedroom supplies. And then one thing that it's overlooked is this is their birthday. That's another trauma, right? So that's seeing it from that perspective. This is they're turning. A lot of people say it like really casually. They turn 18.
Remember when you turned 18?
Yeah, remember you. I remember any birthday. I celebrate it. I like to enjoy it because it's a celebration of life. And that trauma, it's the little cuts, right? It's like a death by 1,000 cuts here and there, and just the interactions that you have with people, and it just builds up. So
let alone how tough their life had already been getting up to that point. It really is unfortunate. I would encourage anybody that's moved by this or been in a similar situation or known somebody in a similar situation. I've mentored some at-risk youth, and it's really, this is real life. This could really make the difference in somebody's life. So I hopefully encourage you to get involved and support. Where can they find you and FLITE on social media or on the interwebs?
Facebook. Just look up FLITE Center, FLITE Center .org, but just FLITE. Look us up on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn too. We have our group page there as well.
How about they find you on social media?
Yeah, you can search Luis, Luis, Rosario, Rosario. Facebook is where I'm mostly active, and Instagram as well. My pictures.
So what's next for Mr. Luis Rosario?
I think, really our upcoming event for the FLITE Center is our second annual event, the Heroes Luncheon. It's a great opportunity for people to come and be a part of this celebration, and we're celebrating and highlighting the unsung heroes, the frontline staff of the different organizations. Because that's one thing I didn't mention, is that not only do we provide support in housing, education, and employment, but we collaborate with about 45 other agencies in the community. And that's the key. And that's the key for our conversation as well, for our project, is collaboration is key. Nobody goes, what do they say? It's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? So in nonprofit, that's the key. And making sure that people aren't in silos. So with our collaboration with everyone, we were actually created with that premise in mind. So, for instance, I had this one gentleman a year or so ago come in, and he comes in all excited, and he wanted to meet my boss and whatnot. Before he met with her, I took some time to see her out, and he was like, I'm from West Palm. And I work with youth that are aging out of foster care, and I do housing for them. And I want to do the same thing in Broward County. And I'm looking at them, okay, did you do your due diligence? And it's like, no, I have the experience, I want to do it. And they told me to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, you can't do that. We do that.
Right.
And if you want to do that, you have to work with us.
Right.
And it's almost, and that's the beauty of Fort Lauderdale that I like too, is A, it's a really giving community, and then B, everybody collaborates with each other and works with each other. And that's been the key component for Flight Center's success and the impact that we're making, is ensuring that everybody's communicating and collaborating with each other. Because if you have that in nonprofits, you have like 5 different organizations doing the same thing, then they'll be vying for the same resources in the community or fundraising, and keeping those funds in different silos, rather than just putting it in a pile and then bringing everybody's human capital and knowledge together to kind of make that impact. So it's been key. So that's going back to the Heroes Luncheon. That's what we have going on September 20th at the BMR, which is an amazing venue. They've been helping us out tremendously, and we're glad to be back for a second year. Last year was the first one. We had 380 people show up for our first ever one. We're looking to kind of go over the 400 mark with that, celebrating all the frontline staff. And the frontline staff are the caseworkers, the ones that are in the trenches, that really nobody really highlights. And everybody, not to say that the C-suites and the executives and the board members should be highlighted, but we tend to forget about those people on the I don't want to say at the bottom,
ground floor
level, right? Boots in the ground.
The social workers.
Yeah, exactly. The people that are giving their time and their energy to and seeing it, really, right? Because there's people that are at a certain level and they hear about it, but when you see it, like, for instance, I had heard, okay, a youth gets a home, an apartment, and a bed, and you're like, okay, you could see that. But when you go in and picture this, you open up the door, and this is the living room. See how this gallery is empty like this right now? You're setting it up, but it's like this. You go in and you hear an echo. Because there's no couch, there's no table, there was a chair. And I go back to an example that I had with this young lady. She needed a bed because she had an issue with the bed that they donated her. So we show up, she opens the door, and the living room was like this. And there's nothing. And then we go into the bedroom, and poor girl, is sleeping on the floor, like tile floor, on comforters. Like, and we're gonna put your bed together. She was like bawling, she was thanking us. And to see it, it's really different. It impacts you in right here in your soul. So there's a difference of like, you read things, you read about it, but when you experience it, you gain the wisdom, right? You gain, like, there's knowledge and then there's wisdom. And I think when you experience certain things, it just hits you at a different level that impacts you. So these people that are at the front line, I mean, there's a lot of energy that they give into what they do. So
the people that go and help, if you want to call them less fortunate, underserved, homeless, at risk, those people are doing God's work. I mean, I'm not, spiritual religious, but it's really, I don't want to say it's a thankless job, but they do a lot without getting highlight and showcase. So I give you guys a lot of credit for putting that type of platform and event together to highlight and showcase them, because they deserve to be thanked more so than just in the holidays and on Christmas.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's just the same thing like teachers, social workers, all these people. But just to finish off, mentioning the event, like I said, just a reminder, September 20th, it's a Friday, 11:30 to 1:30. Information can be found on the Flight Center website. It's actually right at the top, the Heroes Luncheon 2019. And we have sponsorships available and tickets are available. So if you want to be a part of an amazing event like that, feel free to check it out.
All right, so you've begun to see that Lewis is obviously passionate about helping kids, helping the community, helping regular people, anybody really. So I guess this would be a good time to share that Lewis has come up with an initiative that I'm going to help support. You want to tell them?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, so as I mentioned, everybody has a story to tell. And I think that's a key factor. I constantly have just casual conversations with people at a bar or friends. And everybody talks about the same thing. Yeah, social media, people are more disconnected. There's a high level of depression and anxiety nowadays, and this and that. And I'm like, okay, great. But there's nobody coming up with solutions. There's always people talking about the problem, right? And what I've realized is, from coffee meetings that I've had with people and getting involved in the community, that's, in a way, that's something that we need to bring back. It's highlighting people's story and understanding each other from a human standpoint.
Correct.
And going back to that example about the president and the nuclear launch codes, it's like when you see and understand people's story, you give them back that sense of humanity. And I think that's what's going on now with so many things that are going on in our country, where people are starting to become numbers, and we're dehumanizing certain people, certain pockets, and just each other, and just left to right, this and that, the other, not taking the time to kind of really comprehend where we're coming from. And there's that sense of division. So the idea is to pivot off of this podcast, and kind of Evan and I have been talking about this, and work together, once again, collaborating. Because I'm thinking about, maybe I should start my own podcast. But what's the point if there's already a great platform that has kind of the same principles and the same ideas of what I want to do, and just plug together. So the concept is called Humans of 954, and essentially is highlighting the great humans of our community, primarily Fort Lauderdale and the surrounding areas, of people that are doing amazing things, and just telling their story, not only of what they do, but who they are, and just starting there, and just, that's pretty
and
much
not just in arts and culture either.
Yeah, not just in arts and culture, which is what you told me. This is what this podcast is
Geared towards,
for. But it's just anybody that has a great story and wants to kind of come on the show, and just we can all learn from stories. And I think Enid, big shout out to Enid and Raw Storytelling,
Yep.
with her project. I remember, I think you and I were part of at the same time in that meeting for Accent. And shout out to Dynamo as well, putting it together, because it's all, see how there's a trickle down effect, right? Like you had Dynamo that started Accent, and then Enid was a part of it. You and I were part of it. And Accent, it's what would you call Accent?
Action is a mini mastermind group. It's a accountability support group, but it's not like an accountability support group where like you didn't do what you said you were going to do and we wag our fingers at you. It's a free meetup where like-minded third-party neutral strangers that end up becoming your friends sit around a table. You can come with your startup. You don't even have to have a startup. You can come with an idea. You don't even have to have an idea. The first action, the first step is we give you a notebook and we ask you to write down 150 life goals, and they could be anything. And throughout that process and the visualization, and if you want to call it even like the manifesting of it, it's putting something on paper and then putting it out into the universe and then into reality. It's proven to be unquestionably beneficial for the community, from anywhere from Enid starting her podcast to people writing books, to people leaving their job to pursue their passion and being successful at it. We sit around the table and say, all right, what's your goal? What's your idea? What's your what can you do in the next 2 weeks? And we help innovate those in a very non-judgmental, very supportive way. It's every other 2 weeks. It's a free event. We recently moved to the Broward County Library every other Tuesday night at 6:30. It's Action, AXEN Club. You can type it on Facebook and meet up on the interwebs, or just reach out to either of us and we'll be glad to point you in the right direction. But Enid is a great example.
She was a part of that. She had like this idea that was really nebulous and wanted to bring it to life, and she did. And she brought it to life, and it's been amazing running it. How long? It was like a year and a half now.
Raw storytelling. Yep.
Yeah, so it's basically a platform for people to tell a story based off the topic that she brings. And I bring that up because when I worked at Morning Coach, JB had me read so many different books on marketing and whatnot. One of them was The Power of Myth. Can't remember his first name. His last name is Campbell. And it's basically the study of the history of storytelling, and really realizing that storytelling was the main form of education back in the days before, our formal society and whatnot. That's how people in tribes used to tell stories of this is what happened, and the legend of this and whatnot, which is why kind of instinctively when you're in a party and whatnot, or in a gathering, and somebody starts telling a story, people are like, oh wow, it draws them in naturally. So I think that's been another key element that we're losing, is the story behind everything. The story behind how, I mean, one of the things that I've been wanting to find out is what makes Fort Lauderdale, because it's like, why? I always wonder, because this community is so giving, so philanthropic, you know, being in the nonprofit space. How did that start? Like, the Junior League has been so influential, community foundations have been so influential, and I just wonder, and maybe I have to take a trip to the Historical Society.
You do have to take a trip to the Historical Society.
I have to check it out, but it's just really, when you understand things or where they come from, it gives you a better perspective, a more in-depth perspective. And like a friend of mine told me one time, if you really want to understand something, study the history of it. Always study the history of it, because there's more to it. You get a big, more in-depth understanding than what's on the surface.
Amen.
And that's what gets me about like a lot of these, you know, it make me sound like a old fart, but like these new up-and-coming musical artists or whatnot, especially hip-hop, I'm a big hip-hop head, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to understand about the previous artists of the generations that laid the foundation for them to provide a platform in certain instances.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, well, okay. Like,
You wouldn't be here if it was
Exactly. And that's just one example, but that applies to everything that you do.
So that's going to be a beautiful part of the Humans of 954 is storytelling. Even like, so this podcast is more geared towards our culture, community building, but the people that make up the community, from a regular person to, you know, somebody that is maybe a higher up, or somebody, you know, in the Historical Society or whatever the case may be. So we're really excited to bring that to you. We're really excited to be in the space that we're in right now, which we're sitting in front of Rosanna Kalis's artwork in her studio.
But she's amazing, by the way.
She is amazing.
These pieces.
In our first Zero Empty Spaces location. If you didn't know about Zero Empty Spaces, we started an initiative because we view art as a problem solver, and there's two problems that we keep seeing time and time again. One, artists keep coming to us, man, there's really not that much of studio space in general, let alone safe, affordable studio space. What does that cause? That causes our artists and creative staff to leave to go other places to pursue their craft, passion, and creative outlet. What does that do? That lowers the creativity, the art scene, the product, everything, the culture here in our community, which, as you might know, has never necessarily been a cultural hotbed previously, but we're working to change that.
It's up and coming.
It is up and coming. It is up and coming. All the while, we have a good amount of vacant retail, commercial, warehouse space in Fort Lauderdale, all throughout Greater Fort Lauderdale, Broward County. It's just the nature of real estate and all those things. So, using art as a problem solver, my partner, Mr. Andrew Martineau, and myself came up with an idea called Zero Empty Spaces to activate vacant commercial real estate, a storefront, a warehouse, whatever, with artist studio spaces so that they can work, create, do workshops, and be able to pursue their passion accordingly. Our first space, we're very fortunate, it happens to be here on Las Olas. We're very grateful to the Las Olas company for believing in the concept. And so we're here in front of Rosanna Kalis's work. If you want to see it for yourself, we have our grand opening Thursday, August the 1st. It's 914 East Las Olas. We have an Eventbrite page. You can register for free, just RSVP, so we can have a head count. If you aren't able to make it Thursday, August the 1st and still want to come, we're very excited to have our next installment of AAF Creative Zen, which is our monthly breakfast lecture series. It's a mini TED Talk that we host for free every second Friday morning of the month. We're going to do that here in our Zero Empty Spaces location, our first Zero Empty Spaces location, with a brilliant speaker, someone similar to Morningstar, actually, the founder of Different Brains His name's Dr. Hacky Reitman. He was a boxer, surgeon, filmmaker, speaker.
Jesus.
Yeah, brilliant guy, very well respected. So we're very excited to have him speak. That'll be Friday, August the 9th. The doors open at 8:30. The talk starts at 9. You're out here by 10. If you're worried about missing an hour of work, I get it. We have like 18 things you could tell your boss about how you're gaining inspiration. You're bringing insights back that you can bring back to your team and to your company. So that's AAF Creative Zen. If you're an artist and you'd like to be a part of this initiative and get safe, affordable artist studio space at $2 a square foot, including the water, electricity, insurance, marketing, programming, promotions, and events, you can go to zeroemptyspaces.com. Altogether, ZERO Empty Spaces. Feel free to reach out to me, email info@zeroemptyspaces.com. Glad to speak with you. If you have a vacant space that it's tied up in a buy and hold, it's tied up in a permitting process, it's just been really tough to lease, the market's not receptive to it, whatever, email us, reach out to us. We'll activate it, we'll market it, we'll program it, we'll put feet in the street, we'll get people out there, and we'll make it, a place to be, and all with the goal of, obviously helping it get leased in the long run. And we're very excited that we just opened up the independent artist application for our Art in the exhibit for the 4th annual Art Fort Lauderdale, the Art Fair Underwater, taking place January 23rd through the 26th, 2020, during our 2nd annual installment of Fort Lauderdale Art and Design Week, which takes place January 18th through the 26th. Very fair, affordable art fair for any artist to join, primarily independent artists that are not represented by a gallery. That's who we're focused and dedicated to giving the opportunity to. So you can find out more at artforlauderdale.com. That's artftlauderdale.com. And you can find us on social media at Choose954, at EvansSnow13, at Zero Empty Spaces, at Art Fort Lauderdale, at AAF Creative Zen. If you want to be a part of your community, don't hesitate to reach out to either of us. If you like playing soccer, Lewis is organizing the pickup game.
Yeah, August 7th, Hardy Park. So I had several friends, once again, they were like, oh, we want to play soccer. And I live right by Hardy Park, which is an amazing park. I think you were saying that it needs to be activated more. I'm trying to keep it to myself, but no, it's an amazing view of Fort Lauderdale, and it has a tremendous soccer park there. So August 7th, if you want to play, 6:30 p.m. We have an Eventbrite, so you can just search it, just Hardy Park. It's called El Hardy Park Clásico. So we put a Spanish twist to it. So
we'll tag that in the comments when we post this on Facebook, and that's off of Andrews and 6th or 7th? 9th.
Yeah.
So it's
Southwest 9th.
South of the river, right
South
across
of Publix.
Yeah.
On Andrews in downtown.
right across from Hardy Park Bistro, right behind the Southside Cultural Arts Center, which is a phenomenal, underused facility.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah, we really need to activate that space. So you can begin to see, we're two regular guys in the community, really dedicated, focused, and committed to doing things to make this a better place to live and not just a better place to vacation. We weren't born this way, but throughout conversation and our own life experiences, this kind of unfolded and developed. And you don't have to be a community builder. You don't have to be a philanthropist or anything. If you want to get involved to make your community a better place, please don't hesitate to reach out. We could use all of the help we can get, from a like or a follow on social media, to donating $1 or $5 or $10, to mentoring somebody from the FLITE Center, to anything. Who knows, maybe you have a vacant condo that, you know what, you're in a financial position that you can donate, which is something that actually we're doing to help support the homeless issue throughout Greater Fort Lauderdale. That's another conversation, but you never know what you have that could help change somebody's life.
I want to say one thing about what you've been doing, and I don't know if you see it this way, but I consider art to be essential in life. And what I mean by that is this. Everybody, and this is something that I've been recently wrestling with, like, as far as a philosophy of enjoying the journey in life, right? Everybody says don't focus on the destination, focus on the journey, and it's true, and I've always heard it until recently it dawned upon me and I grasped, and then several life experiences that I recently had to go through. And the reason why I bring up art is because art requires you to be creative, and I think, like I was talking to Rosanna just now, you know, I was asking her, I was like, how does this happen? Like, okay, and she says, well, I start off and then I just go. Like she didn't have a plan. Like she just, and then she goes on like this artistic, from my understanding of what she said, it's like she's going in an artistic journey, right? And that's how life is. Like you could plan, like how they say, man plan, God laughs, right? Because things will go south, and things are gonna go south. Right? And I think that's where nowadays everything is guaranteed, right? Like you could put in the Waze app and it'll show you how to get to it. You could order something on Uber Eats and you get it here. And it's like by a press of a button. But when things go south, people just like are not open to be flexible and then being creative to solve their problems, right? Because you need to be creative to have an issue, like how we're like this right now. This is a creative solution, right? You had to think outside the box. Like you may not, and I don't know if you have pieces that I've never seen any pieces from you, but I don't know if you actually draw. You do not, but you are an artist in the way of how you are doing this, right? You are an art, and that's what I'm saying, like there's an art in humanity, not just in a canvas, and I think that's tying all that stuff together and showing people the impact of like, life is gonna go south, and it's gonna require creative solutions to get out of it, like creative solutions to clean up our oceans, because unfortunately, everybody talks about millennials, but the previous generation is the one that messed it up for us, leaving cigarette butts and polluting our ocean.
700,000 tires in the ocean.
You know, it's art. It's up to us now to do these things and be creative, and that's what I think art really. You know, I look at a piece like this, and you also lose yourself, like in looking in all the details in a way. It is so therapeutic. So I wanted to highlight that, and I don't know if you saw it that way, but that's how I see it. And what drives me to art all the time, because I can't draw that like Rosanna here, but I'm really a visionary and I'm really visual, and I think that's why we need to save the arts, because everybody talks about it like at a superficial level. We need to save the arts. They're cutting funding for the arts, but I think we need to really emphasize at a deeper level what art does to people. And the reason for art. And
a city like Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, Greater Fort Lauderdale, nobody wants to live in a place where they go to work, go home, go to sleep, rinse and repeat. There's a play element to live, work, and play that so many times often gets forgotten or overlooked. We had a panel discussion on this. It's on YouTube, it's on our Facebook page. It was the 3rd annual Art, Culture, and Creative Economy in Fort Lauderdale panel discussion we had this year with Commissioner Steve Glassman, Jody Tanner, Broward County Cultural Chair, and my partner, Mr. Andrew Martineau, and myself as the moderator. Strongly encourage you, if you find any of this interesting, go look that panel up on YouTube, take a listen to it. It'll really quantify the real world impact. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we're excited to bring you Humans in 954 coming very soon. Have a good day and save the reefs, y'all.
Awesome.